do some exercises for specific upper body muscle groups. So these are going to be a little more simple in nature, directed, focused into different muscle groups, but again, same rules apply. Know your limitations, work in a pain-free range of motion, and slow, methodical movement is going to be how you can progress the best way. So the first one is for your shoulders, standing with either your weights, these are 5 pounds, can be anything up to this, over at your shoulders, and then you're just going to press up overhead. Again, being mindful of your limitation in range of motion that you're experiencing right now. So if overhead motion is a little bit harder for you, sometimes you can go one arm at a time. That makes it a little more able to kind of use your body to get that overhead motion. We're going to do about 10 repetitions of each in these exercises. So we're about halfway there. Another option is to be seated while you do this. What I'm focused on for safety is that when your arms are above your head, you're not making any concessions in your lower body and you feel pretty secure. So you get a little bit of bend in your knee, tightness in your stomach, breathing in your lungs, and knowing how that feels going overhead. We'll try one more. So this gets a lot of the arm muscles, basically the shoulder, and then once you're done, have a little bit of a rest there. The next one we're going to do is a row, so we're pulling again, and this is going to be one arm at a time. So I'm going to put down one of my weights, and I'm going to use a chair for this, chair for a little bit of stability. I can either just stand and hold onto the chair, or I can maybe get my knee onto it a little bit if I want to get a little bit more of my body weight there. But I'm trying to keep my back as flat as possible. I've got my weight in my free hand here, and I'm going to let gravity do a little bit of a tug here. So I feel the muscles right on the back of the shoulder and into the side, getting a little tug from that weight. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull back from that tug. So I'm going to lift up my shoulder, and I'm going to put this weight in my pocket, making a little triangle with my arm. So I let that go down and bring it up. Again, just kind of working within the range of motion that feels right for you. If you feel this in your back, then you know you're doing it right, or the back of the shoulder. If you don't, then you know you have to maybe adjust a little bit. Sometimes we get into some patterns that, maybe pull this up to your shoulder. We don't really want to do that. You want to think about putting that either in your pocket or even your back pocket to give it a row with the muscles in the back. We'll try just a couple more on this side. And you notice you're doing some work in the side that you're leaning onto too, so that's a little bonus. Then we're going to switch to the other side. So I want to get myself sturdy. This time I'm just going to stand, give you that option. You've got your base hand on the chair. You're going to let gravity do that little bit of tug. Kind of let it, not too much, but just kind of let it feel that tension, so that if you know where the tension's coming from, you can start to activate to go in the opposite way. So I'm looking down at the chair to keep my neck and my spine in a neutral position. I can even put a little bit of a fist there if my wrist starts to feel some pressure. I'm breathing as I go, pulling the back of the shoulder, kind of the elbow comes up and around to point towards the sky. And then putting that weight into your back pocket, doing this nice rowing to strengthen forward posture. This kind of gives a little bit more strength to the muscles in the back to make that posture a little bit more neutral. One more time, and then bringing it back down, bend it up, and you're done with the row. So the next one, this is going to be a chest press, and this one will be on the floor. So if you want to transfer to the floor, get onto your back. You've got your weights again. They can be of want. And if you can't get onto the floor, you can certainly do this on a bed. It's very easy to find a surface that you can lie on your back in a supported position. And then you think about a little bit of like a football goalpost right here. I've got my arms, my elbows directly at the side of my chest, and then my wrists are right above my elbows. And then I want to keep my body pretty stable, so I've got a nice tuck in my pelvis, and my abdominal muscles are holding my spine as I push up against gravity up to the sky, and then control as I lower it down. Now you notice I'm moving pretty slow. I like to move slow so that I can focus on what muscles doing the work. If I go too fast, sometimes I can get a little out of control, and my joints don't always like that. So as I'm learning especially, but as I'm taking care of myself, I want to know that I'm focused on the right muscles to do the job. So you're pressing out as you come up, in as you go down, breathing out as you come up, in as you go down. This is nice because the floor stops before you overextend, and a lot of times with limitations in some of the upper body mobility, this is a good guide. And then as you get a little bit more flexible, there are ways to kind of stretch those muscles and joints out. We'll try one more, and then slowly bring them down by your sides. Okay. So this next exercise, we're going to use one of the weights, and we're working the back of the shoulder, the rear deltoid, with a little bit of upper body rotational work, kind of like we do in the warm-up. And this is going to involve one foot out in front of the other. If you want to stand, welcome to sit in a chair as you're doing this too. You're holding your weight in the opposite arm, and you're going to kind of let it come back like you're throwing a ball. So my upper body rotates. I'm feeling pretty stable through this hip, so I can rotate back, and then I'm just going to kind of do a little bit of a crunch, cross crunch curl there. So as I'm lifting that arm up, the back of the shoulder is doing some work, and then now the opposite oblique or side abdominal muscle is doing the other set. So I get a little bit of balance challenge here. I get some upper body mobility, stretch in the chest. I get a little bit of core work. A lot of bang for your buck on this exercise, but you gotta kind of keep yourself safe during it. So lifting too heavy overhead where you can't control is something to look out for. Maybe start with just your arm doing this, then hold a water bottle, then hold on to something a little bit heavier as you progress up. We'll go to the other side. So you've got the opposite foot in front, a little bit of a split stance. If balance is a little bit more challenging, feel free to widen your stance too. You're welcome to do that. Individualize this to make it meaningful for you. And we're gonna just cross over. So now you're getting that crunch in the right oblique. Rotate, follow that weight back, and bring it forward. You're loading into the hip, getting a little bit of a full body workout on this one. Here, my arm is open, my chest is open, so I can take a deep inhale. Here, I'm kind of crunching, exhaling, pushing that air out. Always making sure that you're keeping that breath going. Holding your breath really works against what you're trying to do. So we'll go just a couple more here, keeping solid through the middle. And even if you don't want to sit while you're doing this, but you still feel like this balance might be hard, welcome to hold on to something like the back of the sturdy chair. Good. And just slowly let it down, bring yourself back to center. So So working on the biceps, these muscles right here. Anytime you lift anything, you're always going to be working the biceps. So they're pretty strong, but it's nice to give them a little attention, specifically now and again. So if you're holding your weights to your side, you're standing in a stance that gives you a good steady base, or seated at a chair. And then you can do a couple different varieties of these. So I'll show you as we're doing our repetitions, bringing it up to your shoulder, back down, full extension of your arm. So trying to kind of lower it under control. Again, putting on those brakes, bringing it up, breathe out, bringing it down, breathe in. So here, this is called a hammer curl. So my thumbs are up. It's like I'm using a hammer. So that's the first part of this set. And then sometimes you can mix it up a little bit by turning your palms out, kind of tucking your elbows in. So the rest of this set, I'll finish this way, where I'm just lifting my palms up and then slowly lowering them down. There's technical differences with this on kind of how they're working through the elbow and the muscles in the forearm, but honestly, this is a personal preference. So whatever you feel like gets to your bicep more comfortably, asterisk by the comfortable, because this is weight training and you need to feel it in the muscles, but we need to kind of know that it's doing the right thing. So we'll wrap that one up. Then slowly let it down. Kind of check your shoulders and your neck to see if there's any tension, and let those weights kind of let the tension go. The triceps are back of the upper arm. Usually they're the ones that are a little bit more flappy than any other part of the arm, so everyone likes to go directly to them. The reason they're not as strong is because gravity kind of assists in what they do. If I'm lifting up against gravity, my biceps, they get strong. Gravity lets the opposite action happen no matter if I'm doing it or not. So we have to kind of manipulate our body to do that. So I'm going to get rid of one of the weights, and I'm going to use the chair for the exercise. And you can get into a position where you're leaning on the seat of the chair, or as I'm going to do, I'm just going to do the back of the chair. So this would be a sturdy chair that we can hold on to, and then we get into a split stance where the foot that's in front, same foot we're holding onto the chair, and then we're going to hold our weight into the other arm, the other hand, and I just want you to lean forward just a little bit. So if you can pull your elbow back and then straighten your arm. Sometimes if you hold that for a second, you can kind of feel that little shake. That's where these muscles are coming into play. So you're going to straighten and kind of tighten the muscles in the back of the upper arm, pull it back. If I'm up high like this, I probably am feeling it a little bit more, a little bit less than I would be if I'm lower down. So if I'm at the seat level, I can manipulate my body where I have to, this is pretty much parallel to the floor. So it's a little bit more difficult to do if you feel like you want a little bit more of a challenge. It's up to you. You're in charge there, so decide what's best for you. This will be the last one on this side. And then we'll flip to the other side. Getting your body in the position, making sure you take a deep breath to start. Shoulders and neck stay out of it, elbow here. So sometimes the challenge for this is you're straightening your arm in the back, you're bringing it down, straightening and kind of tightening those muscles, is that the shoulder, if it's tight, it likes to come forward. So as I get more tired, I might tend to think I'm doing this. And really, you know if you're doing that if you don't feel it in the back of your arm. That's kind of the general rule for everything. If you know what muscle you're trying to work, and you're doing an exercise and you don't feel it in that muscle, then you know you have to kind of do a little redirecting of where your focus is. Maybe repositioning of your body, or sometimes just paying more attention to tightening that muscle. So we're going to do just a couple more on getting these specific muscles, these exercises kind of like put some focus specifically on the muscles so they can get stronger individually, and that helps them work stronger together.